Hello, I'm Nate the Effing Great, and what did I just watch?
'Cause now I'm back on top of the world. I'm back on top of the world. Yeah, I'm back on top of the world. The world. Ain't gonna stop me now.
No reason my legs off like a rocket, now I'm out of sight. Night sky burns bright like the fire in my eye. In this field, nothing feeling just feels so right. I can't stop and I won't quit. And we won't stop till we own this. Everybody all across the map, stand up, show the world, yo, where you at? Cause I'll never back down, I can never max out, yeah, I ain't giving up, no. Now I'm back on top and it feels so good, oh yeah, I'm ready to blow. Cause you got one shot to show the whole world, so yeah, let's give them a show. Now I'm back on top, top, there ain't no stopping me, no.
Back on top of the world. I'm back on top of the world. Yeah, I'm back on top of the world. And the world ain't gonna stop me now.
Unlike the few.
Don't worry, guys, this is not going to be talking about Total Divas or Total Bellas, but the song definitely does hit a little bit at home because it does relate a bit to one of the reviews that I will be doing on this show. Welcome to another edition of The Game Changer. I am Nate the Effing Great. Talking about, first of all, finally, after a little over a week, I finally got the chance to review this. Glow Season 2. The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling made a comeback about, now it's going to be probably 10 days ago. And honestly, the second season was just as good as the first one, if not just a bit better. Because not only do you have some of the familiarities of the first season, but you also have a little bit more of struggles that actually go on with, the wrestling business, like creative differences, power struggles, personal differences, just a lot of things that really are relatable when it comes to creating a TV series. And like I said, second season, they did a great job of doing this. There's a lot of action in this season. There's a little bit of romance that goes on. There's a lot more development between Ruth and Debbie, which I will definitely get into. And honestly, it's one of those questions, what happens from here? Because obviously, we kind of had a feeling what happened at the end of Season 1. Season 2, we have more questions than answers, really. So, like I said, all in all, this was a really good series. Basically, like I said, it goes through a lot of what they went through with the first season. They booked matches from everybody in the original series, and they tried to expand a bit more, trying to keep their network pleased. They tried to keep their sponsors there. After one show, they lost a sponsorship because it was a lawn chair deal. So that was kind of one of those things where it was like, oh boy, well that's just great. That's great. But they also had to struggle trying to get a new network, and then things just kind of crashed and burned a bit. They even had a series finale, which erupted into a lot of chaos, but it was something that a lot of people could definitely appreciate from. And honestly, the series finale in this one was honestly even bigger than the series finale in Season 2, which I'll definitely get into. During the season, Sam, the director, is definitely dealing with a lot of struggles. He's really focused on trying to create the best for Glow, but he has to deal with the fact that Debbie wants to be a producer. He has to deal with the fact that now he's a dad, and he's trying to make sure that, his daughter is staying out of trouble. He even plays the father card where he just says, hey, you're going to have a curfew, you're going to go back to school, you're going to basically make yourself better. And it was one of those things where I was kind of surprised to see Sam doing this, because you looked at him in the first season, and he was not exactly that very, I don't know if I would say firm with a lot of things, but when he finally had his heart and his head in the right place, he could create something really good. And Justine, of course, being the teenager that she was, she just rebelled a bit, but then she also wanted to actually have a good relationship with her dad, which was actually really cool to see. And then unfortunately Justine's mom came in, takes her away, and Sam is still kind of conflicting with emotions, not only for dealing with the loss of his daughter, seemingly, not, literally, like, she didn't die or anything like that, but, having that emotional connection just disrupted because of personal differences, but also having feelings for Ruth during this movie, because at first in this season he kind of hated her, and he kind of showed a little bit more favoritism to a lot of the other ladies that were in Glow, until I think about the halfway marker. Then you got to see him starting to finally realize, okay, let's go with what Ruth wanted to do, and let's go with the direction, because obviously a lot of my ideas are not working. I need to start being more open. So it was kind of cool to see that. Sam definitely stood out during this deal. He definitely was one of those guys that you could watch and say that you can understand what his what he was doing. But then you were also thinking, okay, well, you also had to look at some of the things that he was doing and think, okay, I guess I can understand some of the craziness that he could be doing. Anyway, I'm getting a little getting a little bit over the top here, but honestly, just a lot of the things that they did in this deal, they introduced new characters such as Yolanda Rivas, who plays Junk Chain, but then the original Junk Chain, she came back, and then she I'm trying to remember again, and then she came. Oh gosh, I'm trying to get my trim thought. She came back and she underwent a new gimmick. There we go. That's what I meant to say. It's about like 12:57 in the morning as I'm doing this, so my mind might not be in the best place, but I wanted to do this regardless. So, during this season, we also got to see new characters be created. So the two old ladies turned into like the Toxic Twins, but they stole it from one of their Glow cast members who did not like the idea of being a terrorist. And she also reveals that she wanted to be a nurse, but she kind of gave up on that. And the Sam actually kind of gave her a little bit of a boot in the ass by saying, hey, why don't you actually go back to college and finish up? Why don't you do something? And then she talks about how Glow was just something that she was really good at and that she really did enjoy, despite the racial differences. During this deal, we also had Debbie dealing with her personal demons, where she had to deal with a divorce, and she went through a lot of emotional struggle, honestly, because you saw her selling off a lot of her stuff, as well as her ex-husband's stuff, except for her son's a lot of her son's stuff, so like the cribs, the toys, stuff like that. So it was kind of one of those things where the ex-husband was just like, well, you really don't care about this family, do you? And then we see that scene where she goes up to a room where it says, this room, nothing in here is for sale, opens the door, and it's, her kid's crib and toys and stuff like that. So she does care about him. It's just she was still going through an emotional phase where she was just out of control. So much out of control that she actually found a stash of Sam's cocaine, and she uses that to try and get her mind off, and that ultimately hurts her in the end, because she ends up doing a leg lock, I think it was a half crab to Ruth, and she actually breaks one of the bones in her ankle. I think it was a clean break, if I'm not mistaken. And it was one of those things where it actually kind of got really scary, because then you're thinking, like, well, Ruth is kind of one of those characters that you feel for, but at the same time, you know that she brought a lot of these things upon herself, but she is trying her hardest to make amends for all the mistakes that she's made. And there comes a point during the series where Ruth is in a hospital bed. She's basically getting x-rays and she's just getting ready to go. And during that, Deb and Ruth just have this major, deal where the two of them just are chewing their heads off, where Debbie is just talking about how she, how Ruth fucked her husband, how she just did not have any respect for herself, and how she's basically trying to be like, oh, poor little Ruth. And then Ruth goes on this tangent about how, it would always change with the fame, and how basically how Debbie's life is so messed up that it seems like every single time she has to go back to blaming Ruth for everything, when in reality she can, own up to her mistakes and actually just, be a woman, be somebody who could actually own up to it. But what really stood out in this series, in my opinion, and during that whole scuffle, Debbie goes back to the hotel place, and the character Sheila, who was like the she-wolf of the deal, she-wolf of the Glow series, she actually tells a very great story where she basically finds out that Ruth and Debbie had a bit of a fight, and she talks about how her own parents, so many years they kept fighting each other, and yet they were happy and they were together with each other for so long. It was kind of one of those things where you felt like there was a little message in there where, hey, yes, there are times where you will fight, but conflict does actually create resolutions 9 out of 10 times. And it's just one of those things that really hits hard, because you not only get a feeling of what Sheila had to go through, but the fact that she's more open during this season shows you that she is really coming into her own and really being somebody that these girls are just really loving. So then we see a little bit of rekindlement between Debbie and Ruth. Ruth starts getting a romantic relationship with a camera guy. It seemed like also there was going to be a relationship between her and Sam, but Ruth just pulls away from Sam and goes back to the camera guy. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, she's doing it maybe for the wrong reason. So it's kind of conflicting, honestly, thinking about what they're really doing with this deal. But it all boils down to the final episode. There's actually one episode during this season where they actually show what an episode kind of was like. It basically looks like a full-on syndicated TV episode. It's really cool and definitely worth watching. It's definitely in the later season. The final episode, basically they do this wedding deal because Britannica does not have a green card. So the easiest way to get a green card is get married to an American. So Britannica is getting married to this random fan, but then everything is just going off the edges. We see Bash, one of the guys in here, he basically tells Britannica, no, marry me, not the fan, and they end up getting hitched. During the event, we see Machu Picchu's, oh my gosh, she is like one of those, she's one of those characters that definitely does kind of get the short end of the stick. Carmen Wade, I believe it is the name of the character, but Brittany Young, she has her brothers who are played by Carlito and and I'm trying to remember who's the other one, by Carlito and Chavo Guerrero. There we go. They kind of they get involved here because Carlito's mad about Machu Picchu's girls stealing his moveset, because I guess back then I think it was back in the day where a lot of those moves were still, known with other people, that, basic moves like a suplex or a back body drop or stuff like that, they were a lot of those big moves were trademarked by some of these indie guys. So basically, Machu Picchu's brothers basically are saying, okay, we're not going to, sue you or anything like that, as long as you incorporate us in the show. And it's actually a really kind of funny scene here, because it turns into like a battle royal where they're throwing women left and right and everywhere. And like, I think it was down to like the final four, if I'm not mistaken, because I know it's like Liberty Bell, Machu Picchu, and I want to say Sheila, but I could be wrong. Basically, Carlito and Chavo, their characters get involved. Carlito gets decked out, and I remember there like a little mini conversation where Carlito's just saying hey, this is over, right? And she's like, yeah, I know. And it's just kind of one of those things where they showed like that kind of brotherly sister bond there. It was kind of cool. And then it's all down to Chavo, who has like a one-on-one deal with Victory Bell. It's actually really cool how they do this, because they have Chavo basically saying, like doing the communications in the ring, where basically he's saying, do a hip toss to me, do the backdrop to me, do this, do this, do this. It's really cool, because then you're seeing Chavo basically getting taken down by a woman, and Victory Bell's looking like $1 million. Liberty Bell, I should say. I'm sorry, Victory Bell's my co-host. Liberty Bell would then, eliminate her, and in the end we see Zoya the Destroyer, played by Ruth, come in. She eliminates all the other women from the deal, and she wins the crown of Glow. And it ends really weird with the network saying, well, you guys can't go to another network because we own you, and blah, 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 blah. And then they find out that, hey, if you start performing in Vegas, everything should be good. So it's kind of one of those things where now they end with everybody heading towards Vegas to start the new chapter in Glow. I don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of one of those things where they're just kind of... It's kind of interesting to see what they do. I'm hoping it leads to a season 3, because I want to kind of know what happens during this. Again, yeah, it's just going to be absolutely amazing to see what they do with this whole entire deal. But again, they do a great job. Thumbs up to this, definitely. I'll give it 2 thumbs up. It was definitely one of those series that's worth watching, and if you really do love the original Glow back in, I think it was might have been like the 80s or 90s, I can't even remember which one it was, but it's really just a very well done show. Alright, so I am breaking a rule that I did, because this is not exactly like a highly anticipated movie. This is kind of one of those movies where it's kind of like a hit and miss. Recently, I went and I saw The First Purge. So, I was by myself and I had a chance to take some notes on this movie. Basically, this is their way of starting The First Purge. Basically, they believe it's going to be one of those things that helps bring down the crime rate. The new founding fathers of America want to do this deal where crime is completely legal, murder especially, and it's one of those things where you've already seen, the first Purge movie, you've seen Purge Anarchy, and you've seen Purge Election Year, so now they're basically going back to the first original Purge. If they started with this one, I would have been okay with it. I think this would have been the best way to start off instead of starting it like in the middle. Basically, you see a lot of different things that happen during this first Purge. Obviously, they send a couple of psychos during the entire deal. They even show footage of people basically getting interviewed for this whole entire deal. They'll get $5,000 if they are just, at home, and they'll be compensated more for it if they are, if they actually do extra curricular activities, which is, of course, murder. Only one guy really does stand out to the one who's just like, I want to earn my money, I want to get more money by just killing, and that was just some guy by the name of Skeletor. Oh my god, this guy was just absolutely insane Did he look like Skeletor from He-Man? Well, not exactly. But one of the things that stood out with this guy is that not only is he just a complete psychopath, but it looked like he had these scars on his face where it was like above his eyebrows and on his, like in between his forehead going down his face. It looked like just scars there. It looked like somebody just like sewed it up. It was just really creepy. He's one of those guys where it's like, yeah, this is kind of the thing the Purge was made for. He definitely does. He's one of those guys who just like, yeah, I'm totally fine with it. And you see a lot more footage of him killing, while everybody else is kind of thinking like, oh, it's a big party, and they start looting, and they're robbing places, stuff like that, instead of actually killing. So what ends up happening is that some government agents just decide, hey, we're going to have, these people who are gang members and stuff like that, are like military militia, I think it was, just coming in and killing people. And one of the, I guess, architects of it, who thought of the idea of the Purge, did not envision that to happen. She wanted it to be everybody starts kind of, doing these things on their own, just getting it out of their, getting it out of their systems, out of their own. But obviously, the other guys just saying like, no, we need this to really work. We need people to do it. And he's kind of one of those political guys who says, who cares about the lower income people? They don't deserve to live. They don't deserve that. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why some people will get a little, disinterested in this, is that it seems like it's too real in some cases, because it does show sometimes the government doesn't care, and some people think, well, our government doesn't care either. So that's probably one of the reasons why people don't like it. Maybe it's also because of the storyline. Some of the highlights through this deal are, like I said, the process of everybody just going through, being psychologically evaluated. There were these two old ladies. Oh my God, they were just like, they were kind of like, bitter to start. Then they turned like complete psychopaths, because I remember a scene where they had a bunch of stuffed animals on the ground, some in the air, and it was just some things where they just had these animals just explode. And literally, I thought that was one of the coolest things of this entire movie. It was absolutely great. Two of the main characters, Naya and Isaiah, they kind of represent a kind of like a counterbalance from each other, because Isaiah, he wants to make a living, he wants to provide for his sister, but he wants to do it by any means possible without her knowing. Of course, Naya is also one of those girls who wants to do the same, but she wants to do it the right way, and she doesn't believe the Purge is the right way. She's one of the girls who rebels against it. There's another character in here, Dimitri, who, I look at this guy, and he is definitely a bad guy, but he also has good intentions. Like, he's kind of like a gang warfare kind of guy. He also kind of, I think, transport drugs in his free time, but he also knows, to protect people who he considers family. He definitely has that kind of a kind heart. It's really cool to see that. He's kind of one of those guys who slowly realizes what the Purge is actually doing and what the government is doing. So he's kind of one of those guys that would soon be a part of what I believe would be the Purge Anarchy. So he was one of the most badass guys in the entire deal. Actually, one of the things I kind of noticed on this was that there was actually like a siren that, of course, happens at the beginning. I didn't realize it was actually a 10 siren count on there, which kind of is it's kind of dark, actually, because you kind of listen to it. It's almost like they're basically saying, like, oh, hey, this is basically not only the dinner bell for people to murder, but also it's almost like they're paying respect to the people that they think, oh, you're about to die. We're paying you respect with this 10 siren toll here. Yeah, but the First Purge, I honestly thought was okay. It wasn't one of those movies that kind of was standoutish, and I still need to address my thoughts about Blumhouse Productions, because they do have quite a few movies that are either coming out, or they have produced a couple movies that I have seen that I've either liked or kind of thought, meh. So I'll kind of do an episode about that. Ultimately, though, this was a movie that kind of was a platform for a series that is going to be coming out on the USA Network, and it's going to be, you guessed it, The Purge is going to be on USA Network, and it's going to be premiering on September 4th. It's going to be a 10-episode series. I don't know what's going to happen with these, because obviously with these, they've done 4 Purge movies right now, and they've already accumulated over, I want to say it was like $325 million for these movies. So they definitely do have the background, and I think they only had, oh gosh, I think it was maybe about like less than 14 like $1 million in budgets. So it was very minuscule, basically. It's one of those things where they know they have something and they're trying to create something new with it, but I don't know what they're going to really do with it. They're trying very hard to just create something great with it. Again, thumbs up. Well, actually, I think I'm going to give this one a thumbs down, because was it good? Yes. Was it the best? No. Is it probably going to be one of the movies that are going to be on my top 10 list of best movies this year? No, I think it's going to be definitely worse, because it definitely is a good representation of what the first Purge was, but I don't think it really added anything to the Purge movies that we don't already know. If they would have revealed some of these things during this movie, that's understandable. Like I said, if they started with this movie and then, continued on from there, then things would have gotten interesting. But that is what it is. So, with that being said, I will actually be closing this show, this What Did I Just Watch episode, with a little bit of an interesting package that was brought to me not too long ago. So, basically, it was just this random little box where I opened it up and I see these little tissues, and also I got sent a voice message from a friend of mine known as Bobo, and he told me to listen to this. So, for your enjoyment and for mine, let's listen to what Bobo has to say, because I don't understand what this is all about. Why did he send me a box of tissues, and what is with this voicemail? So I'm going to try and turn it up as loud as I can, so hopefully this works. So, guys, let's just hear what he has to say.
Hello, Nate. This is Bobo, the independent Pokemon Stadium champion and host of a podcast eventually coming to the P3 network when I can get around to it. You challenged me for my title. Now, I can't help but think that you're challenging me because you think I'm the soft target, and you're too afraid to go after Charisma's P3 championship. Instead, you've chosen to take on the independent Pokemon Stadium champion, and that's just fine. Now, I included some really neat things in your package here. In there, you'll see 2 beautifully designed, by me, of course, side plates, just in case you win. Underneath those side plates, you're going to find what's actually going to happen. A lovely box of tissues for your tears when I beat you. That being said, I accept your challenge, and I look forward to your response to my acceptance. Nate, I really hope you're ready, because I can promise you that I am.
Oh, Bob. Oh. Yes, I did make the challenge out to you for your independent Pokemon Stadium Championship. If you thought that I thought that you were an easy target to go after, that was not at all the case. I will probably have to address Charisma about her Piece 3 championship. Maybe I'll have to make that a game changer exclusive. Who knows at this point? But it's one of those things where it's kind of like a backhanded compliment where this guy is so cocky and so arrogant that he sent me side plates as a way of saying, hey, this is my, olive branch to you, and then he gives me black tissues because he says I'm going to cry after I lose. Yeah. I've been through a lot of things there, Mr. Bobo. I've been chopped. I've been humiliated. I've had my head shaved. I had my hair dyed. I've been having to wear bows for the last week after losing a bet for Money in the Bank. So there's no way that you could ever humiliate me more. As far as Pokemon Stadium deal goes, it is going to take place in August because I can't think of a better time to beat you for that championship than on GC, the Game Changer Presents Summer Bash. Everything that is going to happen to you, it's going to be absolutely glorious because I will indeed be the one to beat you for that championship. And I am going to bring true prestige to it. Just like I brought prestige to the Elite Ringside Network title when I held it. And just like I did for the Game Changer title, which I will get back at SummerSlam as soon as I win this Sunday at Extreme Rules. That being said, Bobo, I don't think you are ready for what's about to happen. You just remember that you built yourself up, and I'm going to break you down, not brick by brick, but in one foul swoop. This has been Nate the Effing Great. This has been the Game Changer, and this has been a message sent to the one and only Bobo. I'll see you in August for Summer Bash.